Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of book club. Sorry, I had to get this open. There we go. Another week of book club. If you were tuning in for the first time to my YouTube channel, welcome. Hi, my name's Rose. This is something that I record with my LARP friends on Monday nights, and I post Tuesdays, hopefully, most times. Anyways, so this week we read chapter 8 and chapter 9. Fog on the Barrow-Downs, and at the end of the Prancing Pony, I believe it is. Yeah. Oh, sorry, at the sign of the Prancing Pony. My bad. So we read those two chapters this week. And we have some chapters coming up where we're probably only going to be reading one chapter a week, but we're trying to fit our discussions into an hour. So if you want to watch any of our previous discussions, they're in the playlist that this one's in. We also read The Hobbit first, and those are also in the playlist as well. Incredible discussion, whether you're new or old to Tolkien and Tolkien's universe. Great discussion. I have learned so much. And I am a Lord of the Rings book noob. So it has been very informative for me as somebody who's never read these books before. So yeah, let me go ahead and get us into the voice chat and let's get talking about these two chapters. I have a lot of interesting thoughts about these two chapters, and I bet you that everybody else does as well. So let's get in there. Hello.
Howdy.
There we go.
Hello.
Alrighty. So we read chapter 8 and chapter 9.
Yeah.
Fog on the Barrow-Downs, and at the end of at the sign. I want to keep saying at the end of the Prancing Pony. At the sign of the Prancing Pony. So I definitely have a lot of thoughts about these, again, as always, relating them back to the movies, but also I felt like, again, broad strokes here before we deep dive, but I felt like the Prancing Pony chapter, I was like, oh wow, they did a lot of things differently with that whole kind of scene, if you will.
Yeah.
And there were things I really liked, and I could definitely see why they took them out from getting the movie, continuing to move the movie and the plot along. And like the Fog on the Barrow-Downs, like essentially didn't happen in the movie at all. I don't right? Yeah, because it's like you've got more Tom Bombadil, you've got Goldberry.
Oh, you get that.
Like we really don't have that at all in the movies. And which, again, me coming in with a movie first mindset, I think makes chapter 8 a little hard, because in the movie it's not there. So then when I read it in the book, I'm like, well, I didn't miss it in the movie, but did it add some intrigue? Did it add some plot? Did it add some story? Yeah. But again, with a movie first mindset, was it necessary? I don't know. But what are your guys' thoughts on chapter 8? Talk me through it. What do you guys think about chapter 8?
You definitely are right. As far as the movie perspective, I think they got it right keeping these chapters out, or at least the Fog on the Barrow-Downs, because they're not super vital to the plot. Right. And you know, with a movie you got to get things going. Yeah. And it provides a lot of context. You know, they get the daggers from the actual burial mounds through Tom Bombadil, and those daggers are kind of important throughout the book. I mean,
because those are like Hobbit swords,
right? And one of them is a main contributor to, you know, one of the bad guys getting killed. So I mean, they are important, but you can easily move past it and not hurt the plot.
Are these the same daggers that can kill like a something dead, like an undead?
They can. I'm pretty sure they can harm undead. Yes.
That's like, they're like magic, like they're like king's daggers or something.
Right.
I think we learned that later, but did it mention it in that chapter? I have notes on that chapter. I don't think it mentions it, like what they do. I think
they just say that they're old. But old things are important in Lord of the Rings.
Right. Well, history, there's usually magic involved. Like somebody wielded it to do something epic. Now it's getting repurposed to do something else epic. Yeah. I also found it interesting. Like this is a very minor detail, and it's a kind of a throwback to our first Hobbit discussions where we were saying that Tolkien hated ponies, and everything. But obviously, in their journey so far, Frodo and Hobbit company, they're all on ponies. Like they arrived to the inn of the. I keep saying the inn of the Prancing Pony. I keep saying that, but they arrived to the Prancing Pony like on ponies. Whereas in the movies, they're traipsing through the mud, you know, and everything. And it's like, that's such a minor thing, but it's like, like, it would kind of make more sense. Even the distance that they're crossing, it sounds, relatively speaking, like it's close, like decently so, but like on horseback, on foot, you're gonna cover more ground on horseback, regardless if that's a pony or an actual horse. Like, so.
I did some research for something that I did last year. I called it like a there and back again challenge, and I wanted to do it with running and like riding my bike. And I did the math, based on what I guess Tolkien's described on how many miles it would be. And it was like 1,870 something miles. Like their interpreted distance that they traveled
To Mordor?
Yeah. There and back again. So there and back.
So like, what, 900 miles one way?
Yeah, and then 900 miles back.
Wow.
So it's, I mean, I think we imagine it's small, but they probably just traveled from like Florida to like Louisiana or something. How long have they been walking? Like a week? Maybe not that far.
Yeah, but don't forget, they're like half our size.
Oh, that's right. They're tiny.
But
yeah, it's like walking with a chihuahua. It's a lot more stuff.
Nah, that makes that journey a little more funny. Sorry.
But it's also goes back to like in the book, they're on horseback. And even though they're on ponies, like which are smaller than horses, like that's still going to be faster than manpower.
For sure.
Absolutely. But they still have to pick their way through forest.
True.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you're not doing that on a horse. I'm sure you know that. But ponies can do it. It's just, it's still slow going.
Right. But you're going to be able to go further and cover more ground.
Right.
So it's like,
absolutely.
It's just little things. Because the perception in the movie is that like, oh, why am I blanking on the town that the Prancing Pony's in?
Bree?
Thank you. I totally blanked. But like it perceptionally looks like, I don't even know if that's the right word. Perceptionally, terrible English, looks like that Bree is not really that far away. Because it's kind of like, you know, Merry and Pippin in the movies, I think it might have been Merry, you know, they're like, oh, like, we got a Buckleberry Ferry, you know.
Yeah, they frequent these places.
Right. It sounds like that they just know their way around. Like Merry and Pippin are these worldly hobbits of like the neighboring area of, you know, Hobbiton and everything. And whereas like the perception of Sam is that it's like he knows Hobbiton, period, end of story. Like, you know, in the movie, he's like, you know, if I take one more step, this is the farthest from home I will ever been, you know, and everything. And it's like, okay, then does he like only know the little circle of Hobbiton? Whereas like Merry and Pippin are like, oh, you know, we can like cross at the Buckleberry Ferry, like follow me, you know, and it's like, so he knows how to get there and that it's, you know, 20 miles or whatever down the river to get to the next crossing. Like that's some in-depth detail, but yes, 20 miles is a long time if you're walking, but like, or paddling or whatever, but still it's like, relatively speaking, the distance that they are covering, 20 miles is nothing.
It does feel, whenever I read, you know, the first half of the first book, it does feel like Mary's kind of on the upper echelon of like Hobbit society. Like it seems like he's well traveled and comes from more means than Sam does. I would put Sam like working class and Mary kind of feels like upper middle class, maybe lower upper class, kind of. If you were
Yeah.
to separate hobbits into 3 classes.
Sure. And I definitely think that that's probably a reasonable assumption, considering Sam is a gardener and like,
Right.
you know, and he's working for Frodo slash the Bagginses, and is, and like, you know, the old gaffer, you know, and everything. Like, that's probably a very reasonable assumption. And that's a very interesting thought about Mary, though, because that's not really perceived in the movies. Like, you kind of think of, well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but I feel like in the book that's much more like
Yeah.
translated of like Harry knows his stuff, you know. Yeah.
And it's convenient for Tolkien to have an exposition character.
Oh, sure. And I think that just develops more of just your intrigue to the characters, period.
Right.
So let's see.
He interests me. He was the only one that decided it was time to go to sleep when they get to the inn. And had they all gone to sleep, they'd be dead.
Yeah. Like there was some, I'm scanning for, there was something that I read that I was like, ooh, see if I can.
I did have something.
Go for it.
In the first paragraph, I don't know if you can recall the movies, but Gandalf gives Pippin kind of a speech towards the end of the last movie when they're sitting at the gate and the orcs are trying to knock it down about, you know, what comes next after you die.
Oh yeah.
And that actually, I mean, those words are straight taken from Fog on the Barrow-Downs in the first paragraph. When Frodo's dreaming and it says,
oh yeah.
Frodo heard a sweet singing running in his mind, and then like after that it comes.
Oh wow.
I think that's the only place that it's found.
Huh. Interesting.
That's all I got.
No, but that's cool. I didn't even pick up on that when I read it. Huh. Way cool. Let me see. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I feel like this was just kind of like more traveling.
I got some notes if you want to
Go for it.
Bounce ideas
go for it. Go for it.
So as I saw, this was like some more contact that we get of like Tolkien's vision of evil that exists independently of Sauron. Like Sauron doesn't have claim to all evil in Middle Earth. There's other things that are bad.
Okay.
But there are some similarities in the tone of the evil Barrow and the evil in Sauron. They're both looking for jewelry because there's like a pile of jewelry that they've stolen from other dead people that they got. Because at the end of the chapter, he stops to think about who used to own the necklace that he saw. They're both willing to kill to get it. And then the creepy arm that was crawling over the sword when it was on the hobbits' necks.
Oh yeah.
It kind of like gave the same tone and imagery of when Isildur cut Sauron's hand in the pretext. And like it's like reaching and grabbing, like when Sauron was reaching before he got his hand cut off. And then with Frodo, we've seen him like by himself before. But in this moment when he wakes up, I feel like this is like the most lonely, like the most afraid of being lonely and alone. Because when he calls out to his friends, all he got was the wind. And it was like his first look at like Frodo's type of heroism, which isn't like, you know, like a paladin coming in and like smiting and like swinging a sword or a hammer around. You know, his type of heroism is like one that's like isn't afraid to be heroic by asking for help. Because he ended up calling Tom Bombadil by singing that song. Yeah. And he could have left because the ring or Sauron or whatever evil was calling him through the ring to put it on. Yeah. And I think it would have worked, but he would have lost like his fellowship, his company. So instead, he remembers the song and calls out, which is like, to me, it's kind of like blending in with the last chapter kind of holds us back from moving forward, but it's like that's like you can tell someone something twice, but like 3 times, man, like I can't save you again. You got to do this on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, interesting to see like the internal struggle with like a parallel external struggle. Like he's fighting himself and he's fighting this thing, where he's trying to figure out the external struggle.
Well, and all of the imagery with them, like they had the circlets and the you know, and like they were, you know, like oh, where was it?
Yeah, they were buried like kings.
Yeah.
That's why I think those daggers belong to a king. I think that's what I remember.
Yeah, it was very, like you said, like very interesting imagery of like his friends in that state, and like what does he do with that? And then like, you know, he's like at the end of it, to Frodo's great joy, the hobbit stirred. And stuff, and he was just like overjoyed that his friends were alive.
Still alive, yeah.
Yeah,
just like under a spell.
Yeah. 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 And yeah, and like Tom's line later, you found yourselves again out of the deep water. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
No more help from Tom though. He's done. He said, "You guys passed my neck of the woods. I'm out."
Yeah. Which I definitely have a newfound like appreciation's a bit strong, but like I definitely kind of like Tom Bombadil now versus like what, you know, other people and my brothers had like kind of portrayed him as, of kind of like, ugh, Tom Bombadil, you know, kind of thing. And you know, I wouldn't say that I'm like, oh my gosh, he's the best character ever, but I do enjoy him more, if that makes sense. Like he's definitely a character of interest, versus just like, ugh, you know.
The subtext of Tom Bombadil is definitely more cool than like what is presented.
Right, like all the stuff you guys were talking about last week and stuff, I was like, holy smokes, like that adds a whole new level to him.
Yeah.
So, and him and what is it,
Goldberry.
Yeah, Goldberry. Like very interesting, and like what we were talking about of like they're, you know, like essentially like almost like creatures of the forest and like, you know, and stuff like that. Like very cool.
I've also, and I'm sorry if I'm
you're fine.
I've also, in every form of media, I always have a soft spot for like the couple that's like really in love with each other too.
Yes.
So I've always liked Tom Bombadil and Goldberry a lot.
Oh yes, yeah, and she's like so like happy, like
yes,
like very bubbly, very like, and I wouldn't say that he's not bubbly, you know, like he's pretty spry and bubbly himself, you know, he seems very chipper. But like Goldberry feels like just like, you know, through the roof of just pure joy.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say that, you know, I'm full of pure joy, but I do relate to the like, you know, I am as old as I am. I'm not ancient, but like I am as old as I am, and yet I still try and be like, you know, pretty like young at heart and very bubbly and like, you know, energetic. Joyful. And yeah, and like when I get excited about things, like I don't shy away from having an external excitement about said things. Like for instance, one of my coworkers today brought in a peanut butter pie to celebrate one of the people in her team who just graduated last week. And one of my other coworkers was like, you're gonna, everybody, you guys are gonna come down and see this reveal of this. And we were like, of what? Like, what are you talking about? And we all come down there, and she opens up the, you know, the tinfoil that was covering it, and this beautiful, like, peanut butter cheesecake brownie thing was there. And we were all just like, oh my goodness gracious, you know, kind of thing. And so it was just that outward excitement. I had to loosen my belt one notch after eating it. It was so good. It was really, really good. And I was like, you need to give us the recipe. And she's like, this is straight off of TikTok. And I was like, darn you, TikTok recipes.
Of course. Yeah.
Because I asked her, I was like, can we have the recipe? You know, unless it's some like family trade secret. And she's like, nope, straight off of TikTok. I was like, ugh, please share. Yeah. Yeah. So. Let's see. Just like scanning the end to just make sure. Oh yeah, this was also something too, like very, very minor thing. But like them going into the prancing pony, they, you know, Frodo was like, my name is Underhill. Like, I'm not Frodo Baggins. My name is Underhill. Whereas in the movie, he kind of does it as like that kind of like, oh crap, he's asking for my name.
Right.
Underhill, like panic, you know. And whereas it's like this is much more of like a planned thing.
Right. Which makes Mary's slip up that much worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got drunk.
Right, but that's almost like different though than the movie, because when Pippin does it in the movie, you know, he's like, oh yeah, of course I know a Baggins. Frodo Baggins, he's right over there, you know, and stuff.
Right,
which
he's proud of his cousin.
Right, and if like, you know, if I were to say to somebody like spontaneously at Weekend Warrior, right, and just be like, you know, if somebody's like, oh, like, let's go around the circle, introduce yourselves, and everybody in the circle like knows some people in the circle, right? If I was to just be like, oh, my name is, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna use Lagatha as an example, like Lagatha, people are gonna be like, no. And then if they like get into the heat of the moment of another thing, they're like, oh, Astrid over there, and it's like, that's not who I am in this moment, stop, you know, kind of thing. And but it's like if you pop it and spring it on people, it's harder for them to like lock it in and commit it to like memory. So it's kind of like in the movie, it's like, okay, like Frodo kind of just dropped this on them, like Underhill kind of thing. But in the book, it's like, guys, you planned this. Like, he gave you fair warning. Like, come on.
That's Mary, though. That's definitely. I'm sorry, that's Pippin though. That's.
Oh,
his
absolutely,
MO.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now this chapter, I really liked. Like, because like, you know, they're talking about like, I think there was.
It's like a history lesson.
Yeah, of Bree and like the relation with the hobbits and everything. Yeah, like, and how like right here on the first page, you know, they're saying like there are actually some families of hobbits in Breeland, and they claim to be the oldest settlement of hobbits in the world, you know, and all this stuff. And so you're like, oh, okay, so this is kind of like if we're looking at a Venn diagram of like hobbits and man, Breeland is kind of this like the middle of the Venn diagram, like, you know, the middle and the man side. Like there are hobbits, which I think is also kind of cool because it shows like, well, people in Bree, like they know who the hobbits are, like they know what hobbits are, and they're not such a, I hate to use the word oddity, but like they're not something that they would see and just be like, where'd you come from? It's like, oh yeah, they're here, like, you know,
they're everywhere, it seems.
Yeah, like
so far.
Yeah, it's like, we've seen, yeah, we know, like we're good.
They even got tiny rooms for them.
Right. Like, and that's even portrayed in the movie as well. Is like, we've got nice hobbit size accommodations or whatever he says. It's like,
that's pretty good.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. I just don't remember his exact line. I know he says like hobbit size. It's either accommodations or beds or something. I don't know. Yeah, but it's like, that's cool. And then, like you said, like they go into more depth of like, kind of like the structures, the like the buildings, the, you know, they talk about the, like the turn of phrases that they've heard about Bree and everything. And it's like, okay, so there's definitely some like overlap here with this part of the world. Let's see. Yeah, and it was, it's also interesting too that it's like they've seen some strange people around, right? And you're just like, huh, like, okay, who's come around to Bree and everything, like, and in the movie he even says that he's like, it's my job to ask questions. Like, we've had strange people come see us and stuff like that. Like, I have to do my job.
Queer folk around these parts.
Yeah. Yep. And so
that's what the gate guy said.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just like, okay, so what's been going on outside of Hobbiton, which I think now that I'm thinking about it, just as I said that, it is kind of interesting to think, like, what do we see over the course of the 3 movies in Rohan, Gondor, etc., like all the main pivotal locations that we go to and all the subsets of them, Helm's Deep and Skiliath and all sorts of stuff. But it's like, that's one thing. Well, I mean, even in real life too, but I'll keep it to Lord of the Rings, is that it's like, okay, so they're in Bree, right? What is hitting the fan right now in Gondor? Like, the Fellowship hasn't even happened yet. Like, from the Fellowship of the Ring from...
Right, the company.
Right. The whole company hasn't formed yet. Like, is Boromir on his way already? Like, has he already... I know he's not, but, like, because, Elrond has to call the thing. But, like, is he currently fighting to take back Osgiliath at this moment? Like, what is happening from, like, a grand timeline perspective in other parts of the world? Because we don't know how, I mean, maybe we do in the Two Towers, but it's like, how long has Theoden been, how long has Theoden had his mind, like, taken over by Saruman? And, like, how long has Grima Wormtongue been there? It's just interesting because, like, you kind of think of the hobbits and stuff and you're like, oh, they're kind of like sheltered in their part of the world. They just think that they garden and drink their, ale and have their lavish birthday parties and that, oh, all is right in the world. And it's like, then we start seeing all this stuff and you're like, okay, so what's his face? Denethor is stewarding Gondor and, and all this stuff, in the movies, right? Like, we see all this and I'm like, that all was going on while the hobbits were just living their joyous little happy lives.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, people are already hard at work, like, fighting Sauron. Like,
yeah.
Strider, Aragorn, as we know him, has been hunting Gollum for the last couple of months. Like, it's people are working already. Things are happening, like you said.
Right. But it's like, you feel as though until the hobbits get, well, and I would say until they first meet Aragorn, and then when they get to Rivendell, I feel like those are the 2 first major, like, benchmarks of, like, okay, we're starting to build here. Like, we're starting to see that stuff, like, things are in motion. Things are happening.
Right.
Whereas up to that point, you're like, okay, we're on a stroll. We're taking the ring with us. We're probably going to Rivendell. Yeah, I think that's where we're going.
Right.
Okay, like, we're still just kind of on this. Okay, we're avoiding the Dark Riders, Black Riders, whatever they call them. Like, okay, but, like, you don't really feel like, the whole world is involved yet.
Right.
So is where I was kind of going with that. Yeah. So then, let's see.
Did you catch the ring wraith hopping the fence to get into Bree?
Maybe. Where's that?
That is right after the gate guard, the gatekeeper, lets them in. The very last paragraph, very last sentence in the very last paragraph of that section. says, the paragraph begins, the man stared after the hobbits for a moment, and then that next sentence.
Oh.
He just slips it in. It's like the only time that Tolkien doesn't expound on something.
But I feel like that plays into the Ringwraith character of being these like sly shadows.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of picture like almost like Venom, if you will, from Marvel, like just kind of like oozing over the fence.
Right. Like plopping on the ground.
Right. Just very like slinky, just like over the fence. I'm doing hand gestures, which you guys can't see. But there is an arch of my hand with a slinky gesture. Anyways. Oh, that's interesting. I did not catch that. Oh, that's cool. Let's see. Yeah, so then they're getting their rooms. They're getting their stabling for their horses. Let's see. Trying to get their rooms and everything. Trying to make sure there's nothing I'm missing here. Feel free, anybody, to chime in on anything.
I think I misspoke. I think it's actually Merry who almost gives up Frodo, because I think Pippin goes out. He doesn't join like the group of people in the end.
No, Merry goes to bed.
Is it? Because it says, "Oh, mind yourself, don't get lost, and don't." Okay, I just misread real quick. Okay, gotcha.
Is this the I shall sit here quietly by the fire for a bit and perhaps go out later for a sniff of the air. Mind your P's and Q's, and don't forget that you were supposed to be escaping in secret and you're still in the high road and not very far from the Shire.
Yeah, because Merry not being with them, I mean, something happens. Like it's an important.
Man, he for being like casted with Pippin's character as like a goofball, Merry's got his like crap together, man.
Well,
Merry does,
like after what you just went through, like you got stuck in a tree and then woke up to Tom Bombadil doing magic, blowing your mind, and then you're back on the road, and then you wake up and then you're being attacked by a ghost and you're back on the road, and then this, and you're like, dude, I'm going to bed. That guy, yeah, that's the right call.
Yeah, I would too.
Like, we're going to the pub, dude. Like,
yeah,
what?
just be like, no, horizontal, sleep.
That's the most underhill should be.
Yeah.
He's out and about. He should be under a hill.
That's funny. Okay, so
and going back to what y'all said earlier about his his experience and his know-how with all the towns around, like he's well traveled. He knows he's got to go to bed. Like there's more traveling to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like they're interacting with the Bree hobbits. Excuse me.
Don't act like you don't want to jump immediately to Strider.
I'm skimming deliberately to make sure we're covering everything. Oh, convenient. Who is that? Oh, him. Yes. Him. Oh, I'm just picturing the scene in the movie. So glorious.
It's every girl, man. Where?
Hey, the slight embers from the pipe that light up his chef's kiss.
Every time.
Chef's kiss. Yeah, I'll take a Jaime paired with an Aragorn with a little bit of Faramir thrown in. I'm here for it.
Just a hunky, mysterious man in the corner of the bar.
Yep, I'm here for it. Jaime kind of has a little bit of that vibe too, a little bit in Outlander from like, I mean, he's way more out there, but like, he's still that like, especially in the first season, he's kind of like slinking around because of what he's, known for. Winky wink for those, who have seen it. and stuff. So it's like, oh yes, hiding out in the stable, Jamie. I'll be there. I'll bring you your lunch. Don't worry. Oh, somebody needs to bring Jamie his lunch. Oh, I'll do it. I'll volunteer. Anyways, sorry. Strider, yeah. Yeah, so this I felt like was an accurate description of him. You know, it's like he's one of the wandering folk, rangers we call them. He seldom talks, not but what he can tell not but what he can tell a rare tale when he has the mind. He disappears for a month or a year and then he pops up again. He was in and out pretty often last spring, but I haven't seen him about lately. What his right name is, I've never heard, but he's known around here as Strider. And it's like, there's like two lines, like the whole Rangers line and that line that are like almost direct quotes into the movie. And let's see. Let's see. This part too was kind of neat though, that was very different, was that Strider and Frodo like interact.
Yes, I do like that better, because it feels like Frodo has, you know, the nerve to go and approach somebody like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting too, because like in the movie it's kind of very abrupt that Aragorn saves them. Like, why, again, if you knew nothing about the story, like never read the books, never seen the movies, and you're watching it for the first time, like, why would Aragorn or Strider have any interest in some hobbits? Like, yeah, he disappears, okay, but like, from an outsider's perspective, it's like, well, if you see this hobbit who can disappear, it's like, that could potentially come across as like, hey, is that a moneymaker? Is somebody looking for this person? Is that something I can profit off of? Like, that could be a very easy interpretation of that kind of a like drastic jump of, hey, he's this ominous character in the corner who, you know, is shrouded in mystery and whatever. And, you know, like very easily. Whereas this, it's like they conversate and, you know, Aragorn's like, you know, I would stop your friends from talking too much. Like, you know, it's like, hey, there's strange travelers. He mentions that, which we already kind of knew from the gatekeeper dude. And, let's see. Excuse me. What is it? You better do something quick.
I do that line. I was just about to say that line right there. I like the subtext of that, of Aragorn knows already who Frodo is, like immediately.
Is that because Gandalf told him?
Yeah, we find out in I think the next chapter that that's the case, but we don't, like, without saying it, we now know he knows who Frodo is, because why else would he try to stop
Sure.
Pippin from saying anything?
Sure. No, that's a very good point. And again, makes a lot more sense having these little mini snippet interactions than just kind of the abrupt, like, hey, I'm saving you, you know. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. I did like that this song was like, I think Bilbo wrote it, right? Which was just kind of cool. And it's a pretty lengthy song too, so good job, Bilbo.
A little reminiscent of the cow jumped over the moon.
Yeah.
From when we were kids.
Yep.
Cat and the Fiddle.
Yeah, that too. Good point. And the Man in the Moon, like, that's just, you know, a classic of like Man in the Moon. That's just see.
Right after that song, let me see. I'm gonna count the paragraphs. So I give you 1, 2, 3. 3 paragraphs after. There, halfway through that paragraph, there's a sentence that starts, "But there was one swarthy Breelander who stood looking at them with a knowing and half-mocking expression that made them feel very uncomfortable. Presently he slipped out of the door, followed by the squint-eyed southerner. The two had been whispering together a good deal during the evening." That's a pretty important line. It's foreshadowing for later.
Okay, so we have a shady character.
Ooh.
Yep.
Very shady. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they portrayed the whole, like, the whole, like, him getting knocked back and putting on the ring that way and everything.
We get a bit of a hint there with the ring that the ring's sort of sentient.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Oh, you didn't mean to do it. It just seemed like it did it on its own, kind of."
Yeah. Which has always been so interesting to me, both in the movies and what we've read in the books, that the ring definitely has like a personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a character. It's not just a ring of metal. It's a character. And not like a you're such a character, but like no, it is a like
It's an active participant in the story.
yeah, like there would be somebody on stage with a giant ring around them to be the ring in this musical.
Right. Yeah. I always get upset because people always call it a MacGuffin in this book, but it's definitely more than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and like, though it's yes, Sauron speaking to him, it's like I would say that we could kind of translate that to the ring is speaking to him, and the ring
Right.
is trying to manipulate him because the ring wants, like, I think they even say in the movies where it's like the ring wants to return to its master.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that to me screams like the ring has a personality. The ring has a location it wants to be. It has people it wants to be with, etc.
Right.
Yeah. And then this line of Strider, he's like, "Why did you do that? Worse than anything your friends could have said. You have put your foot in it, or should I say your finger?" You know,
I don't know what you mean.
yeah, he's like, what? He's like, don't, Mr. Baggins. And it's just like, oh, crud.
Don't insult me.
Yeah, it's like, don't insult my intelligence. Don't. Yeah, and then like, of course, like the different people are like, I saw him or I didn't see him. You know. Yep. Burn him at the stake.
Yep. See if he floats.
Yeah, and there are dwarves here. Like there are dwarves.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, there are a lot of like, again, like we've seen dwarves in Hobbiton now, and we've got them in Breeland. It's like interesting. Because I would think again, like just watching the movies, that like dwarves are very much like we're in our own world. Like, yes, we know that there are things going on. We have our relationships with the men, we have our relationships with the elves, blah blah blah. But like every like visual representation of the dwarves is they keep to their mountains, they keep to their holes, they keep to their digging and mining and going for precious metals and gems and stuff. Like that is their bread and butter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then the fact that they're outside of it, it's like, you guys okay?
I think there is a level after the events of the Lonely Mountain. I think there is a level of cooperation that at least that faction of the dwarves reach with humans and elves.
That makes sense.
So who knows? Maybe they're from under the mountain. I don't know. And they're just traveling.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like that makes complete sense, especially because like they had been out in the world all like for all
Right.
that time, versus like just being in their mountains. Um, yeah, and then yeah, so then we wrap up, and it's right before like Strider wants to talk to Frodo about some things, and Frodo's getting very suspicious of everybody, which makes complete sense. Like, you're in a town, village, little city, whatever, that, you know, people just saw you disappear. What do you expect them to do?
And it's the first time he's around people that he hasn't known his whole life. Besides Tom Bombadil, of course, but
Well, yeah, but Tom Bombadil's kind of a weird exception.
He's
right.
really laying low,
Yeah, not at all.
singing songs, disappearing,
Yeah.
doing cartwheels off a table.
Well, I mean, Aragorn's literally like, "Good job, you just stuck your foot in it." Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Now we have to leave.
yeah, it's like I was worried your friends were gonna out you by name. Nope, nope, no. You just like shoved the door open with both feet. Like, nope. Good job.
Oh, you've heard of Baggins before? Add this one to your list.
Yeah, for real. For real. That was good, guys.
Yeah.
Like that
Starting
was
to get decent.
yeah, like we're definitely starting to get into the thick of it, which I think is good because I mean we've talked about that we need, of course, the exposition stuff. Every book needs it. Every movie needs it. You need to build. You need to make the things that to build, especially in the first book in a trilogy. Like we've gotta build some intrigue here. Let me see here. I'm looking at pages. It puts us at 30. We've been doing like what, 20 chapters?
Pages.
That's what I meant. Okay, how about this? We'll do, since we've got, this actually works out well since there's training grounds this weekend. Let's just do chapter 10, which is only a 10-page chapter, so it'll be a quick Monday book club. But that'll set us up for chapter 11, which is a 20-page chapter. And then let's see what chapter 12 is, just as like a getting ahead.
Chapter 12 is juicy. That one goes pretty fast.
Yeah, that's pretty, like, I'd say let's just do chapter 10 as like a quickie little chapter post training grounds on Monday.
Yeah.
And then
exhausted.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be pooped. And then we'll do chapter 11 on its own, and chapter 12 looks pretty thick too. So let's see, 90. And it's like another, it's like a, no, it's like only 10. Can I do math? It's like 16 pages, 15 pages, something. I don't know. But I think that by splitting that up, it means like next week won't be insane. Because if we were to do 30 pages, it's like, that's like an hour-and-a-half meeting, as we've seen in the past. So, okay. So we got a chapter 10 only next week. So it'll be a quick book club next week. And then we'll get back into the bigger chapters. So, but this was good, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out and stopping by and doing the things. And I know it was a smaller group, but it was good.
Of course.
Had a good time.
Excellent.
That was fun.
Yay! All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening and a great rest of your week.
All right, you too.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
I'm hearing people talk about what is it? Peter Jackson doing a new Lord of the Rings film.
Ah,
I did see that.
it looks. We'll discuss. We'll discuss in the Discord. We'll discuss in the Discord. Bring it up in the movies TV chat. We'll discuss in there. Night, guys.
Night, everyone.
I was like, knowing me, we will deep dive into that discussion and I'll never go to bed. Anyways, all right, guys. That was chapter, what did I say? 8 and chapter 9. If you stuck around this long on the YouTube video, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. If you'd like to click that subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. We're growing the channel 1 subscriber at a time. And I'm loving all the interaction and all the engagement. Really, really appreciate it for sure. Got a full week of streams coming up, so if you ever want to stop by in there, would love to see you, would love to meet you. Yeah, check out any of my other content. Life's been a little busy right now, so I'm a little behind. I do apologize, but got some short form stuff, got some long form stuff, got all sorts of variety, but variety is the name of the game around here. So hope you'll stick around for something of it, and something catches your fancy. But I will catch you guys later, and like I said to them, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and thanks for coming to book club this week.